Hey, JD here. Welcome to the Mead House. You know, over the past several years, we've brought you over 150 episodes of mead making education, information, and entertainment. More than 100 guests have stopped by the Mead House, professional mead makers, medal-winning home mead makers, competition organizers, experts on yeast and honey, and brewers just like you and me have all visited to share their knowledge. Hey, the Mead House is produced for home mead makers and brewers looking for a bit of inspiration and information from the many guests and discussions we have here at the house. You can help support the Mead House by joining the Mead House Keyholder Club on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com and search for the Mead House. There's also a link in the show notes. For as little as $2 a month, you can become a keyholder. We've teamed up with some great companies to provide thank you gifts for your support. So get on over to Patreon, join the Mead House Keyholder Club, and get your own set of keys to the Mead House. You can listen to the Mead House podcast with your favorite player, and be sure to rate us 5 stars on iTunes or your favorite listening venue. The Mead House, mead making entertainment you just don't want to miss. Hey, welcome to the. Let's start that one over again. I've had too much rum today. I might even leave that in. Hey, welcome to the Mead House, and thanks for listening to episode. I am going to leave it in. Welcome to the Mead House, and thanks for listening to episode number 211. I got that one straight. Hey, about the grain barrel that got knocked over by the fire hose last week. Well, if you remember, it all started with a cement mixer and a chicken coop. Well, after the grain barrel fell on top of a wrench that we used to turn on the water to the fire hose got broken off, someone forgot to put the wheelbarrow full of horse manure from the barn in the compost pile. Well, that wheelbarrow caught fire, and after all, horse crap is a lot like split wood. Makes a hell of a cook fire if you get caught out on the plains of Colorado where there's no trees or something like a buffalo chip. That seemed to have lost where I was heading here. Anyway. So, let's continue on. Hey, the Mead House podcast, it's pretty much everywhere. The usual suspects, iTunes, Stitcher Radio. I'm a pretty good comedy writer, huh? Maybe I should have had a television show. I don't know. Anyway, Spotify, iHeart, I mean, you know all the places. The front page of the website, meadhouse.com. You know how to get there. Just check them out. They're all on the front page there on the left-hand side. I think they're still up there. Hey, in this episode, you know, once in a while, we like to talk to home mead makers about their hobby, and we found one that listens pretty intently to the show. So we thought we'd get her on a mic tonight. She's a software engineer. Who'd have thought, right? It never fails. You know, one of these days I'd like to talk to a home brewer that's a plumber or maybe a janitor or maybe even a window washer. Anyway, Laura Scott, she's been making mead since 2020, and get this, she put 80 gallons through her fermenter already. We'll talk to her here in just a little bit. In segment 2, after what amounts to somewhere in the neighborhood of hundreds of gallons that have passed through our fermenters, we develop a list of products that we just love to use. So honeys, hops, grains, that kind of thing. The one thing that we haven't spent much time on is yeast. Our favorite yeasts, the ones that we like to use the most. So I asked the guys to come up with their 3 go-tos and why they like to use them. And, of course, in segment 3 of the Social Club, this is where we try to answer questions from mead makers with no formal expertise other than what we've experienced in our own brew house. All that and more here at the Mead House. But first, thanks to all the Mead House key holders for supporting the show. You know, you too can become a Mead House key holder for as little as $2 a month. And we've got some great thank you gifts to send out to you, plus a listing of key holder only content. So get on over to patreon.com, search the Mead House, or just click on the link in the show notes. What are we drinking tonight, guys? I've got 2 glasses in front of me, and I got to be. They both look exactly alike.
2 glasses in front of you, and how many in you?
Yeah, I know. I I know. Well, I mean, I had to sip on this. Well, okay, I'll give it away. All right. The one glass is a rum. All right. I had to sip on this rum for a little while so I wouldn't spend the first 10 minutes drinking it. You know what I mean? And doing this live thing. So anyway, you inspired me. Remember a couple of weeks ago, Ryan, you were talking about this rum. And I don't know whether this is the exact one that you were talking about, but we nailed down the rum maker, I guess, plantation rum, right? So what I've got is plantation Barbados rum. This has been aged 5 years. It's a double cask. Aged in a bourbon barrel and then Farron barrels, French barrels after that. And this, let me tell you, this stuff, oh my God, I'm just going to have to take another sip. That's all.
Yeah, while you're doing that, JD, I believe that is the same rum that I was talking about last week. And I actually just killed that bottle tonight during cocktail hour.
Oh my God. I mean, this stuff, when we were looking to replace Plantation makes another rum, and I wish I'd brought the bottle over to my desk, that is really good that we use. It's a dark rum that we used in rum drinks. And one of our favorites is just to get like a mango or peach mixer. Throw it in a blender with some ice and make kind of a slush out of it, and then drizzle some rum over the top and stuff a straw in the glass and drink it that way. We actually discovered those on a cruise that we took years and years ago down to Mexico, and I kind of fell in love with the drink. So that's kind of our favorite rum. And then we went looking for another bottle and came across this other one, Plantation's Barbados rum. I thought, okay, well, this will make good rum drinks too, until I took a sip of it when we got it home, and I thought, no. This is one you put in a different glass and drink it all by itself, okay? Because this, and I can bet, Ryan, this stuff, you can sit and drink this entire bottle all night long. All right, it's that good. And I mean, I don't know how long before it will finally get to you, but my Lord, I mean, the brown sugar, and there's a sweetness to this. It's unlike anything I've ever tasted, even some of the bourbons I've had. I mean, this is like bananas and all of those almost tropical type things going on, and the vanillas, and oh my Lord, wow! I just got to do another one. That's all. Sit back and relax for a minute. Oh my God, good stuff. All right, so that's in the one glass, in an exact. In an exact same glass, okay, my little Glencairn glass, I have another drink that looks exactly like the rum. So I got to be careful. I got the rum bottle and the one glass on one side of my desk, and this other one on the other side with the bottle sitting next to it. And this is one of my most favorites out of Well, okay, I got that right. It's one of my most favorites out of Sap House. Can you guess which one it is? Of course you can.
Right.
Of course you can.
All three of us have the same favorite from Sap House.
This isn't Smoky Pete, okay? I'll say that right up front. Smoky Pete is reserved for very, very special time. This is one of these days. This is a 24-month bourbon barrel aged mead out of Sap House Meadery. It is absolutely one of my most favorites. Now, Smoky Pete is like one of those extra special favorites that we have talked about on the show here from time to time. But this one, everything. This is everything bourbon plus honey. Okay, so if you can imagine putting all those components together in one bottle, It's all there. Okay, every bit of it. I mean, oh boy. And again, I just got to take another sip. You know how it is. Mm-hmm. Oh my lord. This Evan, I know you're listening, dude. Don't you ever let Ash quit making this mead, okay? 24 months in a bourbon barrel. Something that I've never been able to accomplish, with my own little fermentation program here. I've tried in past, but couldn't put it together. And I think it has everything to do with the barrel. Now we're talking the big barrels. Okay, this is what Ash uses. He gets, locally sourced barrels. Well, not necessarily locally sourced, but sourced from the area. Okay, and New Hampshire's it's a big place. But this mead is, like I said, it's everything bourbon. All right, you get all the characteristics are there. And it's got this certain tartness to it that is really kind of goes along with the mead side of the house. But then on the bourbon side, if you dig deep, you can get into the caramels and the vanillas and the brown sugars if you sit there long enough. It's just an awesome mead. And I really dig it. And to try to mimic something like this, I mean, without getting the authentic recipe, you might have to get Ash pretty drunk and get him to give up the exact recipe with the yeast and the whole 9 yards. But, the one component is that big ass barrel that he uses. And I think that's the key. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking, Jeff. What did you put in your cup tonight?
So in front of me tonight, I have a bottle and I have a red Solo cup. The bottle is a Mr. Pumpkin Ale from Mother's Brewing Company out of Springfield, Missouri. I've been sipping on this while you were talking about your rum and your one of these days. And, I can maybe get the pumpkin off of this. It's not that strong of a flavor. What I'm getting really strong is nutmeg. The nutmeg is like the primary flavor note that I'm getting. Maybe a little on the nose. I'm getting some pumpkin too, but yeah, it's not bad. It's not my favorite pumpkin beer that I've had, but it's okay. And it's that season to have pumpkin things. So this actually wound up in my fridge as a leftover from the party we had this weekend, where the reason I'm drinking from a red Solo cup, I got to break in the kegerator.
Oh,
and had an interesting story because I mentioned I have those little flow control handles on my taps.
Yeah.
So I put this cherry cider into a keg the day before, and I knew it might be a little flat, but I burst carbed at nearly 30 psi, and so I was just kind of hoping for the best. I had it sit in the kegerator for the full day ahead of time, just kind of waiting, and I got it onto a tap. I took the pressure off of the keg, put it at serving pressure 8, and then opened it up. And I played with a little flow control handle, and I could not get any more than a trickle out of the damn thing.
Oh,
so okay, well that's not cool. At least something's coming out. So I pushed it up to about 11 or 12.
Oh wow,
a little bit better, but still not much. Finally, I just, okay, fine. You want to play this game? We'll play this game. I turned it up to 15.
Holy crap.
And it's still not going. Not.
Wow.
I can serve this. I can drink off this, but it's not going like I expect it to, like I've done with, picnic taps or things like that before. Something is wrong here. I'm not sure what. But I was like, you know what? It's a party. I'm here to socialize, not fiddle with freezer for an hour while my guests sit around. Hey, where's the beer?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I said, screw it. First time out with this thing, the cider's a little flat. It's not flowing great, but there is alcohol. We have games. We're having fun. It's a good time. After the party, I went and like I said, cider was a little flat. I wanted to fix that, so I put that back up to that 25, 30 psi that I had been burst carving it at, and I just let that sit, and I let it sit for all Sunday into yesterday after work. And I came out onto my deck where the kegerator has been parked and said, I think I'm going to have a cup of cider because I can do that. And a part of me just got lazy and said, screw it. I'm not gonna take it off of the high pressure burst carb. I'm just gonna hook up the line and go.
I can guess. I'm sitting here. Oh my god, dude. Go on.
25 psi. The damn cider poured perfectly.
Really? Oh my god! I thought it was gonna come out like a freaking squirt gun and just splash all over the place.
I was waiting for that to happen, maybe.
Oh my god!
No.
You had 25 pounds. Holy cow!
Apparently, we just serve at burst carb temperature at my house.
I get
really fuzzy booze. You get really fuzzy booze.
That's oh my god, dude! That's wild. That's really wild. Oh jeez. So how did it taste? How is it?
It's not bad. This is a kit that I've been sitting on for well over a year, so it could have been fresher. It's got a little bit of a brownish color, and I think that either has to do with the fact that it has been sitting around for a while, or for the fact that I tried the little transfer pump that I bought for my birthday as well, and that was problematic. I'm going to have to fiddle with that some more because it just didn't work the way I wanted it to. I came out with a lot of foam in the process, so I'm wondering if that led to some oxidization. But it's not bad. It still tastes like cider. Very apple forward. The cherry is on the nose. It's a little bit in a kind of a secondary background flavor, which is where I wanted it anyway. So, all things considered, for a cider kit I picked up at the homebrew store on the cheap, came out great.
Awesome. Good stuff. Is that it?
That's it.
Okay. Ryan, what's in your glass tonight, buddy?
Wow, the bar is pretty.
Can you top that?
I don't know if it's high or low, but it sure is interesting tonight, isn't it? Wow. So I mentioned the cocktail hour. I was having some of that nice rum. I had a friend. Well, that's probably putting it generously. I'm not sure how many friends I have, but someone who's friendly, listener to the show, was telling me that after hearing our last episode, decided to do a taste test of a party on Saturday, at a taste test of the classic daiquiri, as I described it, and then the golden daiquiri, and said that in the taste trials that all of the guests, participants, all preferred the golden daiquiri. So the barrel aged rum and the honey in there. So that was pretty good. That's a good test. That's our first little bit of feedback here from Mead House Nation on them trying it out and what they thought. So anyway, good feedback there. What I am drinking tonight is a braggot. Surprise, I suppose, huh? This is a Ryan braggot technically, but it's a unique one. I think I told you guys that a while back I did a pantry clean out. Right. And it was a brew in the bag. It was a brew in the bag, or a partial mash, actually. Ryan braggot. I might have also used. No, it was a brew in the bag, right? I did not use any malt extract. And I had some oats, and that I used some. So I had oats, and then I had wild rice, and I had chia seeds. I think were in there.
Right, I remember.
And then I also added, because I needed to get more enzyme activity in there, I went and I bought distiller's malt at the homebrew shop. Just it's the super enzyme rich stuff that, so if you make a really adjunct laden beer or braggot, you need some enzymes going, you can add some of this distiller's malt, and it really, just gives you what you need there. So I did that. I want to say it was orange blossom honey, and I don't recall the yeast, unfortunately. I should have checked my notes, especially with segment 2 coming up here.
Huh.
Now, part of the reason I did this one, it's gorgeous. It's golden in color. It's pale, very pale. It's like on the border of straw golden, and just nice, creamy white head. And it tastes. I'll get to the taste in a second, but the color of it is not what you typically get out of a lot of the wild rice beers. So here in the land of wild rice, up here at Mead House North, there are quite a few uh, wild rice beers, or a handful of them at least, that are made, but they're all darker. Like one is I'm thinking one, there's a brew pub just maybe a mile from here that makes a wild rice one, and it's a brunette. They call it a brunette. It's a brown ale. Uh, there's another place just a couple miles the other direction that makes a dunkel, a wild rice dunkel. There's actually a handful of places that make wild rice dunkels. My brother's brewery makes a wild rice dunkel, and uh, and so they're a little bit darker. And this is very interesting because the wild rice doesn't give you the color. They're
Yeah.
so anyway, and wild rice is, I mean, if you look at it, it's like a chocolate brown, grain. It's a very dark grain. So anyway, it was kind of, I wanted to make a light wild rice beer, and it's very nice. Now, I texted Jeff a while back. Jeff, I don't know if you remember this, but I texted you. I don't know what it was. It's probably some inappropriate time, and and said, "What is that characteristic in like a green bottle Heineken that's been light struck?" You know,
Yeah.
and this reminds me, and it reminds some other people, without seeding it, by the way, that there is like a Heineken quality to it.
Hmm.
I don't mean like it's a Heineken clone. That's not what I mean at all. I just mean it's got like a Heineken quality to it, and maybe I can't drink a Heineken without thinking of the light struck skunk. But I mean, I've had Heineken in those like aluminum bottles, like on a golf course or something, and I've had Heineken in cans. So I mean, it's not light struck if it's in a can or an aluminum bottle, but it still has that little bit of that quality. And I didn't know what it was. I still don't exactly know what it is. Somebody much smarter than me who's listening probably knows exactly what I'm talking about. And it's in there. I don't know how it got in there. I don't. It's just it's not unpleasant. It's a little bit distinct. And now as I'm drinking it and thinking about it more, because I know it's there, and I'm thinking about the different layers, there is a tiny bit of lemon in it. I mean, and there's no lemon peel, there's no lemon juice, there's nothing. The hops aren't super citrusy or anything. It's kind of lightly hopped, uh, but it's got this little bit of lemon in it. It's very pleasant, very nice, but it's not a lemony beer. It's got some bitterness to it, and then it's got this little bit of lemon on it. It's faint, just faint, and it is very, very, again, very pleasant, very desirable. It's distinct. I've had people sip it and say I don't care for it, and to which my response is, "That's okay. I didn't make it for you."
Yeah.
Um, so
Yep.
no, just water off a duck's ass.
Yep.
So Anyway, that's what I'm thinking. All right, let me open this back up here. Laura Scott. Laura Scott is our guest tonight. She is another loyal Mead House listener, and I'm not sure if that's out of pleasure or penance. So
Pleasure.
we'll have to ask her about that. Um, she said she has always loved mead since her first taste. There is a local place near her in Williamsburg, Virginia. Didn't we? Isn't Enlightened Minds that? Is it not? Is it Enlightened Minds? I'm sorry. I should apologize. The guy makes fantastic mead. Who was on our show? He was in another Williamsburg. I think he was in Brooklyn, Williamsburg, Brooklyn. But
Yeah.
I gotta remember that guy now. He had some very good stuff. This one, though, however, is Silverhand Meadery in Williamsburg, Virginia, not to be confused with Williamsburg, Brooklyn. She wanted to try her hand at mead making, but wanted a class, someone to show her how, so that she didn't make a mistake. It's understandable. I've done lots of those. The Learn to Brew days, at Homebrew, the Homebrew Association, or when the beer tasting festivals were going on, they'd have me come out and do a brewing demonstration. So yeah, lots. My booth was typically always full, and only half of them thought I was gonna be able to fill their cups up while I was brewing. So uh, they ever tell you that, Jenny? I think I've said this story before, but it's at a beer tasting event at a baseball stadium, and there's all these booths set up where the brewers are pouring their beer, and then they had Andrea and I come out, and we did this a few years in a row, and do a brewing demonstration. So I get out the kettle, propane tank, and everything, and I'm brewing at the ingredients there, and I'm showing people how to do it. And inevitably, somebody would I mean walk up and they're like, "So when's it going to be ready?" They like clink their cup.
Yeah. What time will it be ready, right?
Clink their cup, yeah. And I go, this one's probably 4 weeks or 4
Well,
weeks.
yeah, like
huh?
cooking a steak, right?
Four
When's that going to be
weeks?
ready?
And I'm like, there's literally like 60 breweries here pouring beer. I mean, I'm the one guy that's not, but so get anyway. Finally, last winter, she decided enough playing chicken and made her first batch, a 1 gallon traditional with chicken feed as a yeast nutrient. No, I'm kidding. I made that last part up. But
Nice.
if you read some of those old books, they probably do say throw chicken feed in there as a yeast nutrient.
Yeah.
The next week, she started a 5 gallon traditional that she split into secondary into blue. So she broke these off into 5 1 gallon batches: blueberry, blood orange, lemon ginger, and strawberry. And 1 gallon was kept a trad, and she hasn't looked back. Since January of 2020, she's made 80 gallons of mead from the meads from the coffee, our favorite topic, to so from coffee to Sizers, Melomels, Viking Bloods, Piments, Methaglens, Capsamels, Rotamels, Acerglens, Bouchers, and finally, for the Iron B, her first braggot.
Sounds like that road trip I took in June, all over the place, huh?
Yeah, all over the place. The vote is split on that one. She is a software engineer by trade and teaches fitness classes at 3 local gyms, and have been a beekeeper for the last 6 years. So I don't know. I can see a lot of the guys at the homebrew club here. The biggest workout they get is moving one keg from over here to over there.
Yep.
So I don't know, maybe there's like a keg workout you can do.
Yeah.
Things that she loves about our show. Oh, this won't be damaging for anyone's ego. things she loves about our show. The answers, trying, not answering, but trying to answer. We got to be clear there. It's an
Yeah.
attempt. It's
Yeah.
not a success. Trying to answer questions that get asked before you answer and see if I'm on track. I'm sorry. Trying to answer the questions that get asked before you answer to see if I'm on track with my learning experience. She's still speaking in the first person there. She still has issues with mouthfeel and is starting to experiment with tannins and acids. Of course, she loves the laughs and that she gets out of every show. Well, we aim to please. If we can't be smart, we try to be funny. So that's what we aim for there. All right, welcome to the show, Laura. And what is in your cup tonight?
Well, hi guys. Thanks for inviting me. I told JD I'm only fisting it tonight because I got to get up early to teach. But I am drinking a little bit of the cinnamon tree from Silver Hand Meadery. So it's like a hot pepper mead with back sweetened with their whipped cinnamon honey that they actually sell, that they make throughout the season too. So it's nice and warm and just kind of toasty based on the previous 2 days we had. Not today, was back up to 90 here in Virginia. But
Wow.
the previous 3 days, we were sitting at low 70s, and it was so nice to just have a nice, warm little bit of mead to go to sleep with. So that's what I'm drinking besides a glass of water. But it's funny, you brought up rum and banana because I actually made a banana rum tea.
Did
So
you?
I was laughing at the introduction. I'm like, okay, that's pretty
Oh,
appropriate.
wow. Yeah, that would be amazing. Oh, my God,
Yeah,
yes.
it was a lot of fun. It was like, except for peeling 9 pounds of bananas.
Oh, I
and
get
boiling
that,
those,
yeah.
boiling those bad boys up, and then I put it, when I racked it down, put it on some nice dark rum. And you were talking about barrels. I've found that, poor man here can't have a barrel, so I've got a buddy who has some white oak, and I toast it and then soak it in the rum or in the bourbon.
So wait a minute.
Some in tequila, yeah.
Wait a minute. So
Yeah.
you started this in January of 2020, and you're already up to toasting your own oak?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Because it's the cheap man's way to get something in a
Well,
bourbon
you're way
barrel.
past me. Yeah, wow. Holy cow.
Something with both feet.
Yeah, no kidding.
Well,
Wow.
I've even put some in tequila because I've made a kind of a Hawaiian themed mead or an island mead.
Yeah.
And put the oak sticks in the tequila and let it soak some of that goodness up, and then slap that into the
Mhm.
mead during secondary. And it's been a lot of fun.
Wow. Jeez, Ryan. I mean, since 2020. Oh, Lord.
Yeah, well, maybe an overachiever, maybe an underachiever, but I've been trying to do it for like 3 years, and finally I just said, forget it, I'm going with it.
Well, no,
So,
I love your passion. I mean, like Jeff said, jumped in with both feet. I mean, I don't know that we have spoken. I mean, this is how many? 211 shows, guys. This is how many years? Jeff, how many years now? Almost 5, you said, you think?
Yeah, I think 5.
And I don't think we've talked to anybody, okay, in that amount of time that has toasted their own oak.
Really?
No. I can't remember talking to anybody that has toasted their own oak, especially someone who basically just started. I mean, you're only
Yeah,
into this
still
for
a
a little,
newbie.
maybe almost, a year and a half, 2 years, something
Year
like
and a
that.
half.
Yeah. So, no, my God. I mean, you literally did jump in with both feet. And, I mean, my hat's off to you, young lady.
Well, thank you.
Wow. Ryan,
Yeah,
sorry.
It's good.
Go ahead. Sometimes I steal the microphone away, and these guys just kick back in their chair and give me dirty looks as I just
Well,
keep
they
on
got
talking.
a drink, so they're good.
Well, All right,
Yeah,
Ryan. I quit. Go ahead.
that's why. Yeah, that's why he stops talking is when he realizes he's gone 6 minutes without taking a sip.
Yeah.
So you rattle off that list: coffee,
Hmm.
coffee mead. What do they, Jeff? I think what are people trying to call that now? A coffee meal, coffee meal, something like
Something
that.
like
Coffee mill.
Yeah.
Uh, Coffee mells to sizers, melomels, piments, methicillins, capsamels, rotomels, acerglins, bauches, braggots, Viking blood or blood here. Um,
Yeah.
what you're you're all over the place. What have you found? What, I mean, what I'd like to just get out of our conversation. This is as I was thinking about this is I'd love to just hear about your journey over the year, and just what the highs were, what the lows were, what the learnings were, what the ahas were. I would just
Yeah.
love to hear you talk about your journey. So I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it there and just kind of let you narrate or tell us your story.
Okay. Well, fair enough. Yeah, like I said, I started off, that one January with the 1 gallon, and I've grown. I think I've got probably, golly day, at least 13 gallons of something in secondary right now. And had 2 explosions that I decided I was going to get bottling buckets after that. One was in the kitchen, and it was a carrot cake mead, and I lost half of it on the kitchen counter. So that was not a good day.
Oh, no.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. So I've decided that all of my primaries will be put into the bathtub because unfortunately I do not have a basement or a isolated room where I can do my brewing. So I put them into the primary bucket, put them into this tub, and if it looks like it's going to explode, I close the shower curtain so that at least it's self-contained. I've not done a blow-off tube yet. That's one thing because
Oh,
it's just
jeez.
the next level. But it's like if it's going to go, it's in the shower, and the only thing I got to clean with is the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah, I made the mistake once of putting something a little bit left over. It was just a minor bit of feed, but I didn't want to toss it, so I put it in a bottle by itself, straight out of primary. Bad mistake.
Yeah.
Because when you go to open it, you got a bottle bomb.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did not open that up outside, so that was all over the dining room wall and ceiling. That was a bad day.
Holy
And those
cow.
were some of the big entertainments. Luckily, I've only broken one carboy so far, and that
Lucky
was
you.
stirring with the metal spoon, and went to pick up the bottle and it was just mixing. So I didn't have the investment of the yeast and the time, but it was all that extra sweet, sticky, syrupy honey all over the kitchen floor.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So those mishaps
That's fun
have
to watch.
not been fun. And it's not like you can tell your dog, come clean this up. No. But I still haven't nailed down. I mean, you'd say I'm all over the place, but every time I hear a combination of flavors or something, like, ooh, I got to try that. So I still haven't figured out, 1 or 2 or 3 that are really the only ones I want to focus on. And as a result, I've got bottles hidden all over my house with mead that are aging and ready to share with somebody. Because, we had the year and a half of going nowhere.
Yeah, Laura, I want to be clear. When I say you're all over the place, I don't mean that in any negative way in the slightest, because
Oh, sure.
I was all over the place. I had a running list, and I mean, I had just everything you can imagine, just a list just like yours of all kinds of different things I wanted to make and try and do that. So yeah, it's following in my footsteps, we'll say.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't taken negatively, but it's like you can't figure out what you really like until you play with it, right? So I've got a freezer full of fruit. I've got, one of the Facebook groups that I managed to find, they like to play a monthly challenge. So that was several months in a row. Was like, oh, well, I got to try that because they've thrown out a challenge. And who doesn't accept a challenge, right? And the biggest challenge, I think, has been the Iron Bee. That's coming up, and I've never done a competition and never had a braggot.
Never done a braggot, yeah.
I've never found any braggots for sale.
Well, and you probably won't.
In this local area, yeah, or to sample that somebody has made.
Yeah.
So here I am making this braggot, for the 2021 Iron Bee, and I'm like, I don't know what it's supposed to taste like, so
there's
I'm about to bottle it.
Yeah, there's some close ones out there. They call them honey beers that kind of mimic, that of a braggot. But I mean, is it or is it not a harmonious blend of beer and mead? I mean, who knows? But so yeah, I get it. I mean, I've believe me. I mean, out here in Southern California, we got behemoth liquor stores, and it took me a while to finally get Total Wine out here in Northridge to finally start carrying mead after bugging them, and they finally did. But I mean, I still haven't seen braggots on the shelf, and probably never will. So it's it's difficult for meaderies and breweries to cross the legal threshold.
Exactly.
To make braggots. So for that purpose, until something loosens up, I think in the legal end, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of braggots out there on the shelf at, your local liquor store or whatever. I mean, there may be some little taverns and whatnot out there that you may be able to pick one up at, but I don't think you're going to see any on the shelf for quite some time yet.
Yeah, that's true. And the local brewery just conveniently just down the street from me. I'm the backup beekeeper for those guys. They make a honey mead lager, but again, they make the lager and then back sweeten with the honey. So it's just a difference than having the honey actually with the boil, so to speak.
Yeah, not quite there, but close. I mean,
so you guys inspired me to make it.
Good.
We'll see what you think of it.
Well, and all of these, from sizers to Capsamels to Rotomels, all these things, is there a particular favorite that you enjoy making the most, or are you still going down that roadmap, trying to find the one?
Well, I know how much you love this, but I've made coffee meads 3 different times.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
How did they turn out?
Well, my first one was amazing, and it was like 21%.
There you go. Okay. All
and
right.
it was like, whoa. And then I tried to make my own cold brew, and that one wasn't as successful.
Uh-huh.
And then I made a third one with, cold brew from, I think it was Starbucks cold brew. And that one was really good. And I like to put them on oak and let them just, age out and get really nice and flavory.
Yeah.
And kind of back sweeten with different honey. So sometimes I'll find these, 1 or 2 pounds of honey, like at World Market or someplace like that, and you'll get like a forest honey or a leatherwood honey. I found small little, yeah. And I tell you, I made a bourbon, bourbon brochet, and back sweetened it with that leatherwood honey, and man, it had some really nice flavors come on.
There you go.
And it's I don't know what a leatherwood is, but that leatherwood honey was good.
Well, speaking of bourbon, you're right in my backyard now. That suits me.
Yeah.
Anything with bourbon.
Really good. Well, and that's instead of trying to, brochet my own honey.
Yeah.
The first round I set was I bought some of the melter honey.
Yeah. How'd that turn out?
Really good.
Yeah.
I've got enough left. I'm going to do one this fall with a dark apple juice and try to make like a caramel apple.
What level did you take your bochet to? I'm always curious to hear from people that do the bocets to what level. We've talked about it here on a show, actually quite often. Right. What level did you take your bochet, and did you find a place that you really liked during that whole bochet, the heating process?
Well, see, that's the cool thing. So melter honey is like honey where big bee production guys pull the cappings off and they melt the cappings, and they have this leftover honey. And if they have this huge amount of production hive, they can sell 5 gallons of this already caramelized honey that you don't have to crochet yourself.
Oh,
You don't
wow.
have to sit
Yeah,
there.
there you go.
Yeah, you don't have to crock pot. You don't have to gauge. You don't have to stir and make sure it doesn't burn or blow up. 'Cause,
Right.
those things can heat up really fast on the stove.
Yeah.
So it was already that deep, dark caramelized, flavor and consistency. And it was
Yeah.
like, that's the easy man's way to go.
Yeah.
Grab my couple of pounds and, another pound of another honey to cut it a little bit, and away we go with the dark brown sugar and a little bit of orange peel, a little bit of lemon peel, and soak it on the oak.
Oh, yeah. There you go. And you said you made a sizer out of that?
I've done that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, getting ready to make another one. I did a small batch, but this one I was going to do with, like that. Not really just apple juice, like the pressed apples,
Yeah.
and to make it more like a caramel apple would be, and then see how that sits and ages until like next fall.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Make some more oak sticks. My husband hates the smell, but man, it's an amazing smell in the house when you're roasting that oak.
I can imagine.
Yeah. Oh my God. That would actually be kind of a wonderful smell out here where I live, but I live in Southern California. We don't get that kind of smell very often out here. It's usually a house burning down. But
Don't talk about that right now.
yeah, no kidding. We're burning down anyway.
Exactly. But some of my favorites by far have been pomegranate, though, because it just gets that nice tarty flavor.
Yeah.
And I've done a pomegranate with a cranberry as well as a blueberry. Just trying to mix.
So talk about the pomegranate. So are you using just juice, or are you using actual pomegranate? I hate pomegranates.
No, Palm Wonderful. The Palm Wonderful juice,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So I just grabbed that because dealing with those little tiny berries,
those stupid little
not my
seeds.
thing.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And I don't have a juicer, and I don't want to invest in one more toy that I got to try and store.
Yeah.
So I do mostly juices with water, and it's so funny. I had one guy who said, I can taste your city water, buy bottled water.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, you snob of drinks, you. But, the pomegranate, you just grab that Palm Wonderful juice. You guys got a Costco,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yep.
I hear you talking about Costco all the time. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I buy that when it's on sale. And then
Yeah.
figure out what I'm going to mix with it. I just did a pomegranate grapefruit. Think grapefruit with pomegranate juice.
Yeah, I wish I could drink grapefruit juice with all my heart troubles and all the freaking pills and stuff.
that makes it tough.
That was man. I was sitting in my doctor's office, and she's giving me all these prescriptions for all these damn pills, and of course she says now with this pill you can't drink grapefruit juice, and I looked at her and I thought, you know what, my world just ended. I mean, I used to drink. I loved ice cold grapefruit. I could drink a quart of that stuff in a sitting. And, man, that just popped my bubble. I wish,
No, I thought the red grapefruit wasn't as bad as the normal.
they told me grapefruit, not any, any kind of grapefruit doesn't go with, I don't even remember what medication it was now, but I take so many of them, but, but whichever one it is, they just said grapefruit, no grapefruit fruit, no grapefruit juice, no grapefruit salad, no grapefruit, anything with grapefruit.
Man.
So I'm really, and I'm even kind of leery about dealing with anything like hops that taste like grapefruit. So I don't know. It's a different world I live in for sure.
Yeah, because you wonder where they get that flavoring from. Is it really got a little bit in there?
Yeah, so let's talk about one of the questions you have here in the show notes here.
Yes.
Is about mouthfeel and how to achieve that. Are you still dealing with that, or I see you're experimenting with tannins and acids.
Trying to. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and you hit on another great mouthfeel component, which is wood. Also,
Right.
Oh yeah.
so
Well, it sounds like if I don't back sweeten it, it tastes like, just flavored water sometimes. So I try to, but so as a result, a lot of my meads are sweet, which is fine by me. I like sweet,
yeah.
but I know not everybody likes sweet. Some people like it really dry.
Okay. So
And-
sweet and mouthfeel. I mean, yeah, without getting that mouthful of sugar, you want at least something else there to go along with it. Jeff, can you help her out here a little bit with the mouthfeel thing here? We've talked
Sure.
about all kinds of different additives and whatnot. Some you can get in a jar, some you can find at the local supermarket. Things as simple as bananas, even. So, Jeff, take it away, bud.
Yeah. So, JD just mentioned half of a well-ripened banana. We're talking, darn near the only thing you're going to use it for is like a banana bread, nearly black or tons of black spots. But half of one of those in a 5 to 6 gallon batch adds a nice amount of mouthfeel, and generally it doesn't give you any kind of. It's not enough banana that you taste banana when you drink it. You just kind of it's a little something extra that kind of just coats the mouth. You've been playing with wood a lot, it sounds like, and oak aging has been, one of my favorite ways to add a little bit of mouthfeel and body to a mead. Just let it sit out, chill on that, and you get the tannin, you get some mouthfeel. It does so many good things. I cannot recommend oak aging enough. As far as other additives you can throw in there, the two that come to mind are maltodextrin, which it is technically a sugar, but it doesn't really add a lot of sweetness. Basically, it adds that kind of a little bit more heaviness or the perception of thickness to the mead. And the other one I've played with a little bit that I like for rounding out or finishing out a mead is glycerin. You can buy like food grade vegetable glycerin. Add maybe an ounce of that to a 5 6 gallon batch, and it's a very small amount, but it does something, and it just kind of thickens it up a little bit. For lack of a more what I want to say, for lack of a better way to say it adds some thickness to the mouthfeel to me. So
as a banana, do you put that in your primary with just like making your tea and your, not really a wort, but getting your yeast ready and stuff? Just drop that banana in there in the primary? Okay.
Toss that right in. I've heard people try it with the peel. I usually do it without the peel, but it's kind of a personal preference. It sounds like it works either way.
Gotcha. Okay. That's interesting because I've got a couple of bananas that are, ripe that way in the freezer. I think you guys had mentioned the banana a couple of episodes back because I've been going back through some of the old ones, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna save this.
If you go way back into the Mississippi Chris days, that's the beginning parts of the show back. The first 50 episodes or so. Mississippi used to talk about using very, 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 like Jeff says, very ripe bananas. When the wife tells you it's time to throw them away. Nope, not yet. Okay, let them sit out there for another week. Okay, I got a special project for them. So that sort of black banana is what Mississippi used to use in his. So. Ryan, there's another, I can't think of them off the top of my head, typically used in the wine industry that offer, a good tannin base. There's a couple of them out there. We used to talk about them. Oh my God, don't get old. My Lord. I can't remember what they were. Do you remember?
Well, I had talked about in the past using like Opti Red.
There you go. Yes.
And yeah, which is a product, it's in the wine industry just to there's Opti White and Opti Red. brings out some mouthfeel
Yeah.
and that as well. So that's a good one that I've used on some of my lighter meats, like hydromels and things like that could be susceptible to being thin,
Right.
and it worked well. So
Yeah, those are the two. Opti Red and Opti White are the ones that I was thinking about. Yeah, and you should be able to get them at your local brew stores. I've seen them there, at least at mine. If not, I mean, you can always go online and search them out.
Yeah, I try to hit local if possible first to support the local guy.
Oh yeah, me too. Before I do any kind of online stuff, but and of course, last resort is always the world's largest shopping mall, Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
The one you don't have to worry about.
Right to my door.
Yeah, don't have to worry about finding parking. Just log in. So, but good stuff. Well, Laura, we need to have you back again and talk some more about some of your projects. I'm interested in hearing more about the 13 gallons or 13 projects. Is it 13 gallons or 13 projects?
13 gallons are secondary right
okay,
now. Because it's like until I run out of carboys, I let them age. I let them bulk age.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good thing too. I mean, there's a lot of this stuff. I am old fashioned. Okay. I'm kind of old school when it comes to this stuff. I just don't think you can. I mean, there's, I don't know why, at what point, okay, in my 68 years, did we finally get to a point where everything's got to be done in a hurry? I guess some people are into it. I'm not. I appreciate things that have a little age on them. And sit a little while and develop, a little bit. I'm good for that. My ciders and sizers are like that. It takes a while. I mean, my sizers aren't ready for almost, 8, 9 months, 10 months at least.
Well, that way they're nice and clear too, right? Well,
they're nice and clear. That's not necessarily the problem I'm having. The problem that I had initially when I first started out with the sizers was, put it in. 4 days later, it's done fermenting. I rack it off into a carboy. I let it set for a month. And then I pour myself a glass and I'm thinking, what the hell is this stuff? This doesn't taste anything like an apple anything. Okay. And so, more studying, more reading, more talking to people, and learning that apples, like some like vanilla sometimes even, or like other fruits, it just takes a while to develop. Okay, and I found that I just use a cheap Costco Kirkland unadulterated apple juice. Okay, apple juice and cider is the same thing. Once you squeeze an apple and squeeze the juice, you can call it either one. So I just use the Kirkland brand. That's all I use. And then my Nottingham yeast that I'm going to talk about here in just a little bit. And but the thing was, what I picked up from listening to other people talk about it and doing some reading, time in a bottle. Okay. Wasn't that a song? Didn't somebody?
It was a song.
Yeah. Is that Neil Diamond or something? Or who? No. Who? There you go.
First thing that I'd like to do is drink another glass.
Yeah. So, the longer my sizers sat, the more apple flavor came back. And I thought, aha, that's the key. All right. So my sizers don't get touched, okay, for at least 9 months. And, I don't know where I was going with this, but at any rate, sometimes things just need to sit, okay, and just leave it alone. Put it away, leave it alone, don't touch it. Keep the airlock full of liquid, and just never mind, just leave it alone. A dark place in the closet somewhere, and hey, if it takes a year, it takes a year. But anyway, that's my own 2 cents. But anyway, look.
So before we
Go
let her
ahead.
go, I had one question here.
Certainly.
You mentioned rotomels,
Yes.
and the first time I made a rotomel, it I used way too many rose petals, and it came out smelling like a perfume.
Like
And I mean,
toilet water? Is that what they call it?
it
Toilet
it
water?
was yeah,
Eau de
eau de
toilette.
toilette.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was it. It's I mean, it smelled fantastic, but it didn't. I mean, it's not like you. It's not like I go into my wife's bureau and have a decide I want to chug her Chanel. So, it's way too much. I way overdid it on the rose petals. The Steve Fletty, last time he was on the show, or one of the times he's on the show, um, whatever you think about the guy, he makes good meat, and he was telling us that when he made his rotomel, he put in just a very few rose petals. He said, dry hopped in just a few rose petals, and then he offered me, say he's also a generous guy. He's like, oh, you can just come to my house and pick some up. So I ordered a bunch online and realized I just needed a few, and you can come down here to Falcon Heights and pick them up. And
Yeah.
and I probably should have done that, but no, I didn't listen. I didn't listen to this, National Mead Maker of the Year. I decided I was gonna triple the amount of rose petals that he
Oh my
recommended,
goodness.
and and it came out like I said, like if you're walking through a department store and you smelt that in the cosmetics department, you think, wow, that's really pleasant. Give me a squirt of that, and I'll
Yeah.
go on my way. Uh, all right, I'm telling you about my failure here. Tell me
Yeah.
about your rotomel.
So I just made a 1 gallon batch because I've heard that you don't just grab any petals. You want to get a fragrant flower if you want to actually carry that, lovely nose scent with you as a flavor. So I had 10 ounces of a flower that's called Paul McCartney, which is a very, very fragrant pink rose bush. So I only put in 10 ounces of the rose petal in the 1 gallon. And I had 3 pounds of orange blossom honey and a little bit of wine tannin. That's when I started trying to play with wine tannin and just kept pushing the rose petals down. That was the most painful part because without having a station set up, I had to, clean the spoon every couple of days, open the lid, push the rose petals down, seal it back up, rinse off my unit. And then I put some fresh rosemary in it in secondary just because I wanted to give a little bit of, that herby flavor with the roses. And I made it in May, and it's still in secondary. And last time I checked, it was middle of August, and it went to about almost 12%. So I'm not a session mead maker yet.
Okay.
The 6% just feel like almost a fail sometimes.
Huh.
And it's not like I drink a whole bunch. I drink like 1 glass and I'm done for the night. So maybe that's the thing. If I needed to have more than 1 glass, I'd need to reduce the ABV. But I just put the EC 1111 in there, just a half a pack, and it smells really good. And I said I've tasted it just a couple of times with the rosemary in there, and I get a nice rose taste and kind of a nice effervescence, but not overpowering like walking through the perfume counter.
Wow.
Now, hopefully, aging it doesn't kill it and make it smell like a perfume counter. Now you got me worried. I have to go check it again. But yeah, I did 10 ounces for the 1 gallon. So
wow.
It didn't seem like too much. The 10 ounces isn't really a lot, right? It's a lot less than 4 or 5 petals. Because you said he did a very small amount of petals.
So you're saying 10 ounces? You mean grams? 10 ounces.
Well,
10 ounces. You're looking at that's better than half a pound.
Well, no. So maybe I did measure wrong. I wrote down 10 ounces, but it was probably, let's put it in another frame of mind. It was about 15 roses. That's it. The petal from 15 Roses.
Oh, well, that.
No, these are fresh roses or dried roses.
Fresh roses. I pulled them right off the bush in my backyard.
Okay.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So yeah, Floody and I were both using dried rose petals.
And I wonder if
so-
that
Okay.
affected it. Yeah.
I mean, if you look at
No, that's way different weight.
a fresh,
Yes.
you look at a fresh strawberry and a dried strawberry, that's going to be quite a big difference. So,
Yeah.
okay, that making sense here. Making sense. You're using the fresh stuff over the dried stuff. So I got it. No, thank you for that. That intrigued me when I was reading that in your bio.
Yeah. Well, cool. I'm glad I couldn't be intriguing.
Very good. Well,
Very
Laura,
much so. Thank you.
Laura, look, we got to cut and run here, but we definitely
no
need to
worries.
have you back. And I'm glad that we could be of some help with the tannins and that kind of thing there.
Yeah, me too.
And we're very happy to talk to a home mead maker that listens to the show and has started into this hobby with gusto, like you did. I still can't believe it's a year and a half into this thing and you've already got 80 gallons under your belt. That's pretty good.
Yeah, don't tell my husband.
You keep them well hidden, do you?
I do.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'll never get a chance to age.
Yeah. There you go. Well, hey, thanks for joining the house here tonight, and we'd love to have you back on again.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. Have a good night, guys.
Thank you, Laura. Take care.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys. That was pretty good. That was pretty good right there. Oh man. Good Lord, guys. 80 gallons. She's only been in this thing for a year and a half, and she's got her listing of projects that she's done. It looks like the frickin' roadmap that my wife and I took on our trip cross country. Stopping here, there, and everywhere, So good stuff. All right. So segment 2, I had put in the show notes to the guys. I said, you know what? We need to talk about some yeast here. And something we really don't spend a lot of time on. And I thought, it might be kind of unique to come up with our 3 go-to yeast. If you only got 2, that's fine too. But I have 3. And I'll start this one off. I'll do the first one. And Jeff, I'm going to come to you for your first one.
Okay.
One that I've used several times, actually more than several times, that I really, really like because it's a very well-rounded yeast that you can use in a lot of things, is White Labs California Ale yeast. You've heard me talk about this before. WLP001. Now this is their best-selling yeast, and there's a reason for it. You can use this in meads, sweet mead, dry mead, ciders, from a big array of beer styles, from barley wines to stouts and everything in between, IPAs. It's a very well-rounded yeast. It has an alcohol tolerance of about 10 to 15%. So, you drop it into a mead. You want a wine strength mead. This California Ale yeast will do it for you. Alcohol, or the attenuation, 71 to 80%. I ferment this at 68 degrees. And 68 is actually the bottom end of their temperature recommendations, but it's good up to about 73. So it's got kind of a narrow fermentation temperature there. But I love this yeast. I'm kind of anxious to try this in a cider. I haven't yet. But Ryan, this is one that I use in braggots. I think it does an excellent job, especially when you use it with hops. It really brings out hop flavors quite nicely. Especially my favorite, the Citra hop. I just love that hop. So I'll use that quite a bit. But Jeff, your number one go-to yeast, and why do you like to use it?
My number one, and I would say number one for both, but we've been talking about this for 2 years now. Voss Kveik from Omega.
Yep.
We've tried all their Kveiks, at least the ones that they jumped on the line with Hothead and Hornadal, and Voss is the one I keep going back to. I love the orange flavor from that hot process fermentation, but you can ferment it cool, and it's a pretty clean, just very aggressive, but not a lot of character. So you can do just about anything if you just put some effort into controlling your temperatures a little bit. It can be a little bit of a nutrient hog at those hot temperatures, but that's really the worst I can say for this guy. I mean, the flavor, that orange flavor, is so intense. I've literally had judges accuse me of not listing oranges as an ingredient in a braggot that I submitted made with that, because it's just there. It's really great.
Yeah.
Kveik is my number one, and I've used it in just about everything at this point, and it has not disappointed.
Yeah. Ryan, I know you've got some favorites. So what's your number one?
The way I looked at this is it's not. I came up with some, but it's not in
a ranking
numerical hierarchy, right?
Yeah.
Right. There's a bunch I like, but it depends on what I'm making and what I'm trying to get out of it. So
gotcha.
It's not numerical hierarchy. And just to switch it up here across the board, of what we're all mentioning, and lastly, I should say I'm not going to give you a specific strain of yeast. I'm going to give you more of a style or a family, and that is the monastic or Trappist.
Okay.
And I really like those Belgian monastic, Belgian Trappist style of yeasts in a lot of my braggots. Not all, but a lot of them. So I do say that the Trappist style ales are some of my favorites. The Trappist style braggots I've tried to bring in too, and they're great. They're estery. They have you can get some dark fruits off of some of them, and again, they are, they're not too finicky. They've got a fairly decent temperature range. They're not super finicky on nutrients, and you can get some really, really cool estery, fruity notes out of them when doing a braggot. You do need some malt in there to activate some of those flavors. I have yet to get all of those flavors out with just a straight, like a traditional mead ferment. But yeah, those are always some of my favorites. There's lots of great ones out there, depending on your preference or availability based on manufacturer. And then sometimes the manufacturers will have some little nuances between, a handful of the different ones out there.
Yeah, I should have prefaced mine the same way Ryan did, because I use different yeast for different things. So maybe that's the direction to go here. My second yeast that I like very, very much, and you heard me talk about this one before as well, when I make my sizers or ciders, and that's the Nottingham English Ale yeast. I tried several yeasts before that, even some of the Lalvin wine type yeast, and had bad results. And then in my reading and research on making ciders and ciders, I stumbled upon a post that from this guy who just swears by this Nottingham yeast. And of course, this is my attempt in trying to mimic one of my most favorite ciders in the world is Irish cider Magners, and trying to mimic, their cider with my project. And Nottingham brings me the closest that I can get. Nottingham, it's English ale yeast, not just a cider yeast, but it's got a very high attenuation and a very high flocculation. So when it drops out, it drops out. The fruity flavors don't really that it will give in some other projects really don't affect the ciders and the ciders that much at all. And it's a yeast that has a pretty wild fermentation temperatures, from subtropical 50 degrees to cool summer temps at 72 degrees. So it's kind of a big range, actually. I usually ferment at 60. I do most of my projects at 68 degrees. I just find that brings out the best. Unless I'm using the Kavik, and that I'll actually plug the heater on the bottom of my fermenter and run the temperature up as far as I can get it. But the nice thing about this yeast is I can be done fermenting in 4 days at 68 degrees. That's a no-brainer for me. So, and then into secondary, and let everything drop out, and then into a keg, and then in the keg it sits for the next 9 months. Choice to add some wood or not. Yeah, okay, we can do that. Now, along with the Nottingham English ale yeast, another English ale yeast that I really like, it's actually a British yeast, is also from White Labs, and that's the WLP 005. I could have threw that in there as maybe a second best. I prefer the Nottingham, but I would use the WLP 005. Jeff, when it comes to your second yeast that you like to use the most, you got a choice?
Yeah, and actually, it's really darn similar. My next choice, and this isn't necessarily a volume choice, but Fermentus's SO4 it's a British ale yeast.
There you go.
And much as you said about Nottingham, I think a lot of the same applies. I'm willing to bet they're very similar strains. At the end of the day, just a different manufacturer. I initially tried an SO4 mead as a kind of a whim. I had some leftover Saaz hops from a Czech Pilsner that I was making, and had a pack of yeast, and I had a gallon jug. So I threw those together and said, well, let's see what happens. And oh my God, was it a pleasant surprise. I've since tried it in fruity meads. I've tried it with cider. I've tried it with the Ethiglins, the very slight fruity estery character that it lends is ridiculously pleasant. It adds a little bit of that perception of sweetness without actually being sweet that I really enjoy. The only thing that I will say is a kind of a drawback is that you're really a little bit stuck with either session or in that moderate alcohol content, because it does have that alcohol tolerance of about 10%. Mm-hmm. So you're either going to have a lower ABV or more residual sugar if you're putting a higher amount of sugar in up front. But man, I have never had a mead that I made with that I didn't enjoy. Mm-hmm. And I've tried quite a few different varieties of it with it. So yeah, that would be my number 2.
Yeah, it's funny, you don't hear much about SO5 and SO4 much anymore these days. And I remember, maybe a couple of years ago, reading in a lot of beer brewing forums that a lot of guys, that's like their go-to yeast as well. Kind of the workhorse of yeast that many home brewers like to use. But I am familiar with SO4. I've used it a couple of times in the past. I've had good luck with it. So, Ryan, your second choice in yeast that you like using. What
well,
is
we're
it?
all going. We're all going British Isles right now, aren't
Yeah,
we?
yeah.
So, all right. So I'll pick my favorite British Isle yeast as well, and that is YLP White Labs. Um, oh, let's see. YL 013.
WLP.
WLP 013.
Okay.
White Labs, yeast. It's the London Ale yeast, and that one is very similar, very very similar to the YLP 001, the California Ale yeast,
Yeah.
which I believe is basically the same strain as the US05.
F5. Yeah.
So it's up there. Well, the London Ale yeast is very similar to that. What I really like though is that because it can go pretty dry. It might not go quite as dry as some of those, but it goes pretty dry, and it has this really unique oak ester character to it. So this oak ester character comes through, and it just gives it a little something more. Now, don't get me wrong, I love US05. Think it's a great yeast, great strain, or YLP 001, or any of the other manufacturers that all use this a variation of the exact same strain.
Yeah.
It's a great one, but this one just has that tiny little something extra without. There was an old like cough medicine commercial
Mm-hmm.
back years ago, and it said treat all the symptoms that you have and none that you don't. It's kind of like
Yeah.
everything you want, nothing you don't. Well, this is kind of the same thing, right? It's everything you want, nothing you don't. It doesn't. It's not trying to be too cute, or it's not trying to do too many things here. It's just a solid solid yeast that has just a little bit more character, a little bit more interesting character, in my opinion, and gets that head tilt. Remember, the head tilt
Yeah.
is what you're looking for when somebody drinks it and they turn their head to the side a little bit.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
and you can achieve that with the WLP 013 London Ale yeast.
You know who does the head tilt really good?
A dog.
No. Yeah. Dog. No. What's his name from Basic Brewing? Not Steve. Oh God, his name just went south on me. There's Steve.
I know what you're talking
Steve.
about.
Yeah. He's
Jim.
he's got that head tilt down pat.
Jim.
Yeah. Basic Brewing video. Good stuff. In fact, I just saw the one that they just put out here a couple of weeks ago. Good stuff. My third one, and I kind of consider this one to be sort of the workhorse in mead making. And I think everybody knows what I'm talking about here. This is 71B. And 14% alcohol tolerance. So you're talking a wine strength there if you want to run it up that high. Ferment's really good at about 68 degrees. Again, that's kind of my standard temp, but it'll go all the way down to about 60 degrees, mind you. And get this, you can even take it up to around 85 or so, 86 degrees. So it has a kind of a short lag phase, so it gets started kind of lickety split. Now I use this one only for straight up honey and water meads, no braggots or anything like that. 71B with the proper nutrients added. I don't think you can go wrong with this one. It's a very well-rounded yeast. A lot of people who make berry meads and that kind of thing have tremendous luck with it. And for just a straight up traditional, now the one that we have here in the very last glass carboy in the house is a straight up traditional that we put on some American oak for 4 or 5 months, finished it off with some Hungarian oak, and it's got a pretty amazing taste to it. That was done with 71B. And it's clocking in right around 14%, so it's definitely wine strength. You can still feel a little bit of little bit of the heat out of it when you take a sip, but 71B. I mean, that's if I'm going to do something with just straight up honey and water, that's what I'm going to. So, Jeff, as far as your third yeast that you like to use, what do you got?
My third is also a Lalvin strain, surprisingly enough.
Yeah.
I think this one is kind of an unsung hero in the common strains of Lalvin, but K1V 1116.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's a cider, not a cider. It's a champagne yeast.
Yeah.
Jesus, Jeff. So
that can be used in a cider.
Oh yes, absolutely. And actually, I think some of the fermentation characteristics of this one in particular lend itself nicely to cider.
Mm-hmm.
Much like EC 1118, it'll ferment up to 18%, but it also makes really damn tasty session meads. It's a very clean fermenter. It's a very aggressive fermenter. It's great for stuck fermentations. If you're having problems with another yeast strain, or you're not getting quite the final gravity that you're looking for, it is not a terrible idea to send a little K1B in as a cleanup batter here to finish what you need to do. Like I said, it ferments clean, and it's a great beginner's yeast too, because it'll ferment clean up to 75 degrees, which, middle of a Midwest summer, stick that on your kitchen counter, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're just fine.
There you go.
So yeah, this is it for ease of use, for range of use. I think it's a great one.
Yeah. Ryan, your third and final yeast, buddy. What do you like to use?
So, I wish this list were like 5 or 6, not just 3, because I'm going to leave some off. I'm leaving off all the wine ones, by the way, for this. I do love using them. I use them a lot, but I feel like I tried to pick ones that everybody doesn't talk about. Everybody talks about 71D or 1116 or 1118 or all that kind of thing. So I deliberately I'm not going to talk about those. The third and final yeast that I'm going to talk about tonight is an Omega yeast. It is OYL 033, the Jovaru Lithuanian farmhouse.
Nice.
It is not a Kveik strain, but it kind of acts like one sometimes. Now the Kveiks, I love the Kveiks, love them. But if you wanted to do something a little bit different, the OYL 033 Jovaru Lithuanian farmhouse is really cool. It is the temperature. It still will go up to 95 plus degrees. I mean, on the spec sheet, they say this thing can go to 95 degrees, and we know it can go a lot farther than that.
Yeah.
But where this one is a little bit different is if you're trying to make like a pseudo lager, like, by the way, let's say you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, it's September 28th. I need a keg of Oktoberfest ready to go in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, okay, you're not going to lager a Marzan, and have it on keg in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, right.
But you could make a pseudo lager. You could go get one of the Kveik strains, and make a pseudo lager, Oktoberfest, and probably fool a lot of people and have a nice time. Well, you would not use this yeast for that, because it's not going to go that clean on you. This one is going to go, you can crank it up. It's going to bring out some citrus esters. It's noted to have lemon. It says lemon, pith, and black pepper, and a very soft mouthfeel.
Ooh, yeah.
So I like it. I've used this in traditional meats before, and I thought it was really great. I really loved what it brought. I thought it was fantastic. Used it in Ryan Braggots. Thought it was fantastic. Even made a lemon feed with this. I made a lemon melomel with this one, and really liked that as well. So I've used it across the spectrum of traditionals, melomels, braggots, and really liked that what this one brought. So that's my third one tonight. Before we, I always got to temper back the hate mail preemptively and say that these are not the only three yeasts I use. These are not necessarily my all-time favorites or things like that, but they are three of my favorites that I thought would be interesting to talk about because they don't often get talked about, or at least we haven't talked about them in a little while.
Yeah. There you go. Well, that kind of lays it out for our listeners. That's the three yeasts that we kind of like to use in our individual brew houses. And guys, unfortunately, we have just run out of time. Oh my God, so sad. So we're going to have to cut it off right there. We have just defeated the clock here. So the social club, guys, we'll just have to get after you next week. We got a ton of questions to get answered here. One at the very bottom, we're going to save it for next week, but I want you to be thinking about just thoughts and advice on incorporating mushrooms in a mead. Now, we've talked about garlic and all kinds of weird things in the past, so we'll tackle that one next week when we come back. So, and I'm sure we're talking about edible mushrooms here, not, other types of mushrooms. You can get as much out of your mead at 14%, I think, as you'd ever want to get out of one of them other mushrooms. But anyway, hey, thanks for hanging out with us in this episode, and big thanks to listener Laura Scott for spending some time here at the house with us. Hey, again, if you want to get on the show like Laura Scott did, it's easy enough. Just let us know what you're brewing. Email us, info@themeadhouse.com, or just send us a message on the Facebook deal or Twitter, both at The Mead House, and we'll set up a date, talk to you. I'll get Ryan to book you on the show. And then that's it. And we'd love to hear what you're doing and talk about your projects with you. So with that, I guess, Ryan, flip the lights off. Jeff slammed the door shut. And I'll tell you what, we'll see you next week for episode number 212 here at the house. We're gone.